Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking with you about my artistic journey and why you should keep all of your art no matter how much you hate it. So I'm going to be showcasing my old art all the way from elementary up through college, and then when I reached my adulthood and started doing digital art. And I'm going to be sharing this with you because I wanted to share how much I have grown personally, but also because if you do this for yourself, you can see how much you grow because we don't see our own growth every day. And it's good for you to look back and see how much you've grown over time. So, anyways, diving right into my art from my elementary years. I started off drawing like this in my early childhood. I have no idea how old I was. But these are my two earliest pieces of art that I have pictures of. I don't actually physically have these, but I have pictures of them thanks to my mom. I used to draw like this on lined paper in second, third, fourth, fifth grade. I don't even think I ever got my hands on a sketchbook until I was in fourth or fifth grade because I just didn't know that drawing paper was a thing. But I used to draw on printer paper a lot, and I think I did this character in about fourth grade. This character was really inspired by Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. But I mean, I can already see my own growth just from early on to this. Um, I don't know when I did this, but this is what I was drawing like around fourth, fifth grade. Again, another one from about that age. This is my favorite piece of art that I did in elementary school, and I know it's absolutely awful. Nothing about it is any good. The hands are just bleh. It's all smudgy because clearly my hand was flying all over it. The hair is awful. The wings are crap. It's very inspired by Legend of the Dragoon if you've ever played that game. But I was really proud of this at the time, and I remember this one really well because I liked it so much. I did this drawing when I was in fifth grade, and I know I did this in fifth grade. And I think that this drawing is the best one I ever did in elementary school. And with that, elementary is going to cut off, and we're going to go into my art that I did in junior high. So this I did, I believe, when I was in sixth grade. Again, early junior high. I was starting to try to draw bigger at one point. Everyone was always telling me that I draw too small and I needed to draw bigger, and I think that I started drawing bigger at the expense of proportions. But I was trying to do character sheets right here at one point. This was an OC of mine. I actually tried for the first time here to also do a bit of a different pose. I don't think it turned out well at all, but the feet were too big and there's no hips, but I was trying. Again, with this, I think that I was trying to draw bigger, but greatly at the expense of proportions. The hands are too small, the head is too big, the arms are too short. It's absolutely awful, but still have it, and it's a testament to how much I used to suck. I'm just kidding. But no, definitely funky looking. No, just no. This one I actually don't think was that bad. I was still in junior high when I did it, but I think that like overall the proportions weren't awful, but it's definitely not good. I'm not saying it's good, but I think I was beginning to like have some idea of what the body proportions should be like when I did this. And this is getting later in junior high, like 7th or 8th grade, but the arms are too short on this one, but I think that I was really starting to get a much better understanding of anatomy at the time, even though it's clearly not there yet. This was a fan art I did of Vivi from Final Fantasy IX. I was in 7th or 8th grade when I did this one. I literally just copied it from a book for the video game and just drew it, but I liked it at the time. It was fun. Now I look back on it and think that it's chicken scratchy and the eyes aren't even the same size, but I remember I had fun doing it. I did this in 7th grade, and I remember it because I did this for art class, and I was really proud of it at the time. I tried really hard to make this look realistic. So now we are moving into my high school art. This was oil pastel, and I know that it was me copying the cover of New Moon. I don't remember what year I did it, but well, it was one of the Twilight books. I don't even remember which Twilight book, but I always liked oil pastels, and I always liked drawing on black paper with them, so nothing special here, but it was kind of fun to do. This was actually a self-portrait of me with another friend of mine from my art class, and in hindsight, I kind of hate this drawing because my face looks really funky. I don't think hers looks awful, but my face is weird looking and the hair is terrible. But this was on 18 by 24 inch paper, so at the time I just had this thing about trying to draw as big as I could. This was for an art class at some point. It was a still life that my art teacher had us do, and I hated it. It was rope, and it was 3 cow skulls sitting on a table, and obviously it was a still life. We had to draw it, and she looped that barbed wire and the rope over the top of the 3 cow skulls, and they were sitting on this plaid shirt. This was the very first time I had ever used ebony pencils, and it was my first time trying to make a drawing look like black, black. And I got really upset with this drawing because there was a conference art show, and my art teacher said that this was one of the best pieces that I had done, and I really wanted her to enter it in pencil drawing. She said she thinks I could have gotten a medal for pencil drawing that year if she'd entered it, but then she said she forgot to enter it. I was so upset. But neither here nor there, that's just a story behind this drawing. This isn't my OC. I had a drawing of him from junior high. I've actually been drawing this character since elementary school, but I don't have any of my elementary school pictures of him. They just haven't survived. But I did this in 8th grade, I think. Like, the summer after 7th grade, maybe even the summer after 8th grade, but no, wait. I am totally misspeaking. I'm sorry. I'm in my high school art. Ugh. Anyways, I did this during the summer sometime. I know it was during the summer. It was not during the school year, but I really liked it at the time. In hindsight, I look back at it and I think that the legs are too long. Either that or the arms are a little too short. I'm not sure which, but it was one that I was super proud of back then, but I kind of look at it now and think it's really funky. Another OC of mine that I've drawn several times, and I did this, I know I was in high school, but those pants and stuff, I was trying to draw baggy pants, and there's just no sense of depth or texture to it, but I at least think that the arms and legs are the right length, kind of, sort of, even though the neck and head look absolutely atrocious. No, I'm trying to redeem it. It's not redeemable, but I still have it, and I like, again, the purpose of this is to look back and see your own growth. This is my least favorite thing I ever did in high school. This was supposed to be a fan art of Pocahontas, and I was drawing it out of memory. I should have looked up references, but I didn't. I remember that she had a necklace in the Disney movie. Instead, I drew, like, the heart of the ocean or something. But this was in charcoal, and it's the only time I've ever used charcoal. It was awful, and I hated it. I mean, you can see it, it is awful. Everyone in my class said it looked like some weird Marilyn Manson type of thing, and I'm like, it's supposed to be Pocahontas, but goes to show you just how much I couldn't draw with charcoal. This was at the same time that I drew that self-portrait of me with my friend. I was like, I can draw better than this. Like, I knew I wasn't, like, the best drawer in the world, but this was just, I hated it. I will never use charcoal again because of this piece. So, the story behind this, I think I was in my junior year of high school when I did it, and my art teacher made the comment that if you can draw hands, you can draw anything. And I did this. These are actually was my attempt at drawing my hands in that particular pose that you see them in. And I was trying to like art flex on my teacher, like, hey, look at me, I can draw hands. Now I actually look at this and think that those hands are kind of awful, but it's what I get for trying to flex instead of just trying to be like a good art student, I guess. So this was after my junior year of high school, going into my senior year, and it was just a fan art I did in a sketchbook I had of Byakuya Kuchiki. I was pretty proud of how it turned out. So now we're moving into my college art, which I only have one piece, and that's an OC of mine. That is this character whose name is Sita. Now, I took art classes in college, and I just took them for fun. I didn't take them for any other reason. But I really liked this character. He's one of my favorite characters I've ever come up with, and I really liked his armor design. But apart from the face looking funky, I actually was really happy with how this one turned out. Moving into my earliest digital art drawings. This fan art of Sesshomaru was my first ever attempt at digital art, and I keep it so I can look back and be like, I've gotten a lot better since then. And I'm glad that I still have it because, as awful as it is, this was where I started with digital, and this was when I was in college, and I actually got so frustrated with this piece that I put down digital for years, and I didn't touch it again until I was like in my mid-20s. After a few years later, I started dabbling with digital again, and I drew this picture of my OC Adrian, who I also take my screen name from, and this of my OC Kiara, who is supposed to be a kitsune, kind of in a cyberpunk setting. This was another one I attempted to do of her, and all of these were really chicken scratchy, but I didn't really have much of an understanding of how Photoshop worked, and I wasn't using a display tablet, and I was just really struggling getting the feel for digital there for a while. But moving on to a few years later, I started doing stuff more like this, where I was hiding my line arts on a lot of my drawings, and I did this in my mid-20s, like 25, maybe about 26. And I was super proud of it at the time, and looking back, I kind of hate it. I feel like her head is too big and her hair is super flat, but I thought it was really cool at the time that I did it. I did this drawing of my OC Adrian after that, and I was really proud of the wings. The background was photo bashed, but I don't have any problem with photo bashing. And this was when I was first starting to be like, oh, hey, photo bashing is a thing. But I actually didn't have any idea what resolution I was supposed to work at. I just didn't have that knowledge yet. And I didn't go to school for digital. Like, I didn't even... All of my art classes in college were just 2D design, drawing 2, basically type of stuff. I didn't take any, like, digital art courses, so I'm completely self-taught with digital. This was a fan art I did of Liliana Vess, getting close to my late 20s, and I was pretty proud of how this one turned out at the time, but looking back, I think her skin looks a little dead and flat. But I feel like I've really, at this point, started to have a much better understanding of anatomy and drawing hands and stuff, and my understanding of digital was starting to come a long way. This was something that I did when I first got my hands on my first drawing mannequin. And I actually took a picture of the mannequin, traced it, and then drew my character on top of the outline. And I was really proud of how it turned out. Still wasn't happy with the hair. I struggled with hair for a long time, but I thought it was a really cool piece at the time. This was a fan art that I did of Castlevania. I did it when season 2 of the Netflix show came out, and I was super proud of it at the time. I actually am not unhappy with it even to this day. It's not perfect, and I can see that, but it just has cool factor to me. And I think that I'm extremely biased on this because it has a lot of cool factor to me specifically. I genuinely just did something that I thought was cool and I executed it to the best of my abilities at the time. And even though I might not have been technically skilled enough to like make my vision come to life 100%, I still did something that I thought was cool. I really genuinely was a fan of, and I like it just for that reason, even in spite of any imperfections it might have. This is an OC of mine. She is supposed to be the queen of pirates, and I hate the hair in this one. I hate the nose. The hat, I tried to draw lace. It bugs me. The fabric of her coat bugs me, but I am so proud of her hand that is holding that gun. I think this is one of the best hands I've ever painted. So I just love the way I did that hand. It's the one redeeming quality of this painting to me that makes me go, ooh, I really like how I did that in this one. So this one, I used no references. I drew it completely from imagination. I popped in the movie 300 and I was like, I'm drawing a Spartan. I did a gesture drawing and I just whipped out a Spartan from a gesture drawing. And I feel like this is one of the best drawings I've ever just drawn freehand from imagination. Well, I think I did look up a reference for what Spartan armor actually looked like, but other than that, this is one of my favorite pieces and I had a lot of fun with it. I also started having a little bit of a better understanding of how to draw hair at the time, and I started using textured brushes for hair instead of trying to draw it the way I was drawing it in the past. This is another fan art I did of Byakuya Kuchiki, but with this one, I actually took the photo of my pencil drawing I did in high school, and I just opened it up in Photoshop, and I drew this on top of it in Photoshop. So for those of you who are having a hard time getting used to drawing in Photoshop and you're just starting to get into it, definitely a piece of advice. If you're like, oh, it's hard to draw in Photoshop, I'm much better at drawing with pencil, draw with pencil, take a picture of it, put it in Photoshop, paint over it in Photoshop. Little art hack for you. This is my OC Aiden, and I'm including this one in this because this is the time I'm starting to really get used to painting in Photoshop, I think, and getting better at painting skin. And even though this isn't perfect, I feel like I was starting to grasp how to paint skin and make it look alive a lot better. This was also the very first painting I ever did where I did it in grayscale and then converted it to color after. So the reason why I'm doing a little transition here is because those were some of my earlier Photoshop drawings, and I feel like I grew in leaps and bounds when I went into doing stuff like this. I was absolutely in love with this drawing when I completed it. This is my OC Adrian again, but this time I feel like I really got the texture of the hair right. Now his arm is off, his abs are off, but I loved the background. I loved the wings. The wings were free-handed. The body was drawn from a reference. And the background and the floor, those are photo bashed. I was starting to get a really good understanding of photo bashing, and I was starting to get a good understanding of how the different brushes in Photoshop behave. And I mixed hard and soft edges with this, and I was just really happy with that. And the cool glow effect I got on the magic in his hand. I just did so many things in this drawing that I liked. Now, you can criticize it. Like I said, I recognize that my muscle anatomy is off, especially with the torso. But this has a lot of cool factor to me because it's my character and I brought him to life better than I had ever done before. And even though I see my mistakes, I still think that this drawing looks cool in spite of it. I'm actually doing a redraw of this right now that I hope to finish soon, but this is one of my favorite pieces, and I learned a lot doing it. This is another drawing I did of my OC Adrian, same character that you saw in the last picture, but this time I used photo bashing differently. I drew the body, the hand, the flower, all from reference, The hair is from imagination, but I was following guides from Ross Draws and stuff of how to draw hair, and I started to feel like around this time my hair started to look more loose, more flowy, and it's not as stiff. I used a lot of custom brushes to create the cool effects. The belt and the gems along the necklace, those are all photo bashed in, and I added the highlights and shadows after the fact. And I really liked how this one turned out. I still don't have a great understanding in this painting of the muscle anatomy of the torso. I think it looks a little funky, but this is one of my favorite paintings regardless of that. I liked everything else about this except for the torso. This was my OC Aiden in the woods, and this is a much simpler drawing in terms of just what I did, but I really liked how I started to mess around with custom brushes that are like flowers and leaves. I absolutely went crazy with this. And really, if you ever want to just know an easy way to do environments outside, custom brushes are awesome for that. Stick to your basic hard brush for drawing most things, but trees, grass, leaves, seriously, use some custom brushes. Don't hate on them. This was my OC Aiden again, but I drew him in the woods hunting a Wendigo, and here I was trying to limit my color palette to a more dark mood, and I also was experimenting with a lot of dry oil brushes that people have made for Photoshop, and I wanted to achieve a more painterly look, and I also used some of my custom brushes for the grass and trees in the background and in the foreground. And I started having a lot of fun with particle effects and God rays around this time also, but this was a piece I was really proud of. I really liked it. The character's face is a little meh, but I had a lot of fun doing this either way. I intentionally left my line art in on this one. This was a drawing that I did of my OC Aiden just for fun. I wasn't really being too ambitious with it. It's actually a fairly recent one. At the time of this recording, I did this like a month ago, but I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do a little fun cartoony drawing and just meh. I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm not going to hide my line art. I'm just going to have fun with it. But I liked it. I had fun doing this little cartoony thing. This is another one where I also chose to leave my line art, but I was actually trying to be ambitious in spite of leaving my line art in. I chose to do a cartoony design, and I was really happy with how it turned out, and I used some custom leaf brushes that were blowing in the wind that I downloaded and created the look with the leaves because this character's power is supposed to be very one with nature sort of a thing, so I thought the leaves would be appropriate. And it was a lot of fun to do. This, again, is Aiden, but I've started recently trying to study Frank Frazetta, and I'm trying to get some painterly look into my digital art, and I'm also trying to work in less saturated colors because bright saturated colors make your art look A, more cartoony, and B, my mentor, Adam Duff, says in some of his videos about using color that using too much oversaturated color takes away from the effect of a piece, whereas in this one I specifically made the glowing of the sword be the most saturated thing in the piece, in contrast to the really unsaturated background, and it draws your eyes right to the sword. That was intentional, and I think I got that right with this piece. I'm also really proud of the character's ponytail. I think at this point I can say for myself, I think I've really got a good grasp on hair, but I was trying to get some of that Frank Frazetta look going on in the background with the color palette that I chose. And I felt like I somewhat achieved that here. So with this, I actually just grabbed a picture of a cobra that I found on the internet, and I created my canvas. I scaled up the picture of the cobra, and I traced the cobra. And then I drew the environment and my character interacting with the cobra, which is a tip that I've seen that somewhere from some art YouTuber that gives advice, but the entire idea that I had with this was the cobra was going to be, the snake was going to be like, the whole point of this is my character is going to be facing a giant serpent in like a desert environment. And everything is going to be about him and his interaction with facing off against this snake. And again, I was looking at Frank Frazetta's art and trying to get some of that dark fantasy Frank Frazetta style vibe in it. But I drew my character in with his sword pointing at this giant snake, and it's supposed to look like the snake is attacking him, and it's supposed to be big and huge and epic, and it's not perfect. I'm not 100% satisfied with it, but I did the best I think I could do, and overall I was pretty happy with how it turned out, even though I wish it was a little better, but with time, I'll get there. This was me drawing my OC facing a Gorgon in like a dungeon sort of thing. And I made sure to make his eyes closed because he can't look the Gorgon in the eye. And I created this with a few references for a woman to get the shape of the Gorgon right. And to create my character's pose, I actually used a model that I created in ArtPose Pro on Steam, and then I took a screenshot of it and I traced the model and drew my character over the outline. But everything else I rendered myself. And this was the most recent piece that I finished, and it's not perfect again. I'm not 100% happy with the Gorgon's face, but I am really happy with the textures that I put on her skin, and I kind of liked the mood that I was able to achieve with this. I feel like my character's hands are a little off and the Gorgon's face is off, but other than that, I, for the most part, liked all of this. I was trying to keep my color palette very limited on purpose, and I think it sort of worked and it's sort of different. Sorry. I was experimenting and I feel like I learned a little bit about what does and what doesn't work here, but I don't think it turned out too awful overall. Anyways, that was my digital artwork up to my most recent painting with the Gorgon. That being said, that is my artistic journey. So, thank you for watching. Always keep your artwork. And when you're feeling like you're not getting better, go back and look at your old stuff and you'll see just how much better you've gotten. Thanks for watching and have a good one.